The ring clattered to the floor when he yelled, "I can't do this." My life crumbled in that instant. Guests froze in their seats, champagne flutes halfway to lips, the string quartet's music cutting off mid-note like a needle scratched across vinyl. Marcus stood there in his charcoal suit, shoulders shaking, eyes wide with something that looked like panic more than regret. Ethan Hayes, 32-year-old rising star of a silver screen, felt the marble chapel in downtown Los Angeles tilt beneath my feet. The man I had loved for 4 years, the man who had whispered forever while we rehearsed lines together on set, had just shattered every plan we had built in secret. Cameras flashed from the back row. Paparazzi who had somehow slipped past security, and I knew tomorrow's headlines would scream my name alongside the word humiliation. Security ushered the guests out while I stayed rooted, staring at the simple platinum band rolling to a stop against a pew. Marcus didn't even look back as he pushed through the side door. My best friend, Sarah, a fellow actress who had flown in from New York, wrapped her arms around me. "Ethan, breathe. We'll handle this." But breathing felt impossible. The chapel smelled of white roses and broken promises, and every inhale reminded me that the closet I had cracked open for him had just slammed shut again. By evening, the news was everywhere. Ethan Hayes' secret wedding crashed. Fiancé flees altar. My agent called 7 times. I let it go to voicemail. I drove to the beach instead, parking at Malibu, where the Pacific roared louder than my thoughts. Waves crashed against the rocks while I replayed every moment. The quiet proposal in our rented cabin in Big Sur, the way Marcus had traced the script of my latest film across my chest and said, "This is us now, 2 leading men." Lies apparently. He texted once, "I'm sorry. My family found out. I'm not ready." That was it. For years reduced to 3 lines. I flew home to Texas the next day because my mother insisted. The Hayes family ranch outside Austin looked exactly as it had when I left at 18. Red barn, white fence, American flag snapping in the wind. Mom hugged me too tight at the airport, her eyes already wet. "We saw the news, baby." "Who was he?" Dad stood behind her, arms crossed, jaw tight the way it got when the cattle prices dropped. They had never known I was gay. I had fed them the same scripted story I gave interviewers, single, focused on work. Now the secret was national news, and I had no script left. Dinner that night was quiet torture. My younger sister, Riley, kept checking her phone, whispering to her husband about damage control. Dad finally spoke after the peach cobbler. "Son, you're a man with a career. This phase is going to cost you roles." Mom shot him a look, but said nothing. I excused myself to the porch, the same swing where I had hidden my first crush on the football captain back in high school. The stars above Texas were the same ones I used to wish on, but tonight they felt cold and distant. I realized then that running back to the closet wasn't an option anymore. The world already knew. The days blurred into weeks. I returned to Los Angeles hollowed out, sleeping on Sarah's couch because the apartment Marcus and I had shared felt poisoned. My publicist scheduled crisis meetings. How to spin this without confirming anything. But the photos were out there. Me in the tux, Marcus's back as he left. Social media exploded with support from fans and vicious comments from others. Hollywood's latest gay disaster, one tabloid called it. I read every word at 3 a.m., the blue light burning my eyes, wondering if my career, built on action roles where I played the straight hero, would survive the truth. Sarah finally yanked the phone from my hands. "Enough. You're coming with me to New York. There's a small indie film shooting next month. Director's a friend. No press, no spotlight." I agreed because staying still hurt worse than moving. We flew east on a red-eye, landing in a city that never slept. The first week, I wandered Central Park in hoodies and sunglasses, letting the autumn leaves crunch under my sneakers. New York felt anonymous in a way Los Angeles never did. No one recognized the guy who had just been dumped on national television. That's where I met Liam. He was sitting on a bench near the Bethesda fountain, scribbling in a worn notebook, dark curls falling into his eyes. A coffee cup balanced precariously on his knee, when a gust of wind sent my script pages scattering, pages I'd been memorizing for the indie film. He jumped up and chased them down like it was a game. Got it, he laughed, handing me the last sheet. Our fingers brushed. His smile was easy, crooked, nothing like Marcus's polished Hollywood grin. You look like you could use a distraction. I'm Liam. I write things that don't usually pay the rent. We ended up at a tiny cafe on the Upper West Side. He ordered black coffee. I took tea because my stomach still rebelled against anything stronger. He didn't ask about the wedding. He talked about books, about the way light hit the skyscrapers at golden hour, about his day job editing for a small literary magazine. For the first time in months, I laughed, really laughed, when he described a disastrous author reading where the poet had recited from memory while standing on a chair. Hours slipped away. When we parted at the subway entrance, he slipped me his number on the back of a receipt. No pressure, just if you want to chase more runaway pages. I stared at that number for 3 days before I texted. We met again, then again. Walks turned into dinners, dinners into late-night talks on his tiny Brooklyn fire escape. Liam knew who I was. Everyone did, but he treated me like Ethan, not the trending hashtag. He never pushed. When I finally told him the story, sitting on his couch with a half-eaten pizza between us, he simply listened. That sounds like it hurt like hell, he said quietly. But you're still here. That counts. For the first time since the altar, something inside me shifted. Not healed, too soon for that, but maybe cracked open enough for light to sneak in. Shooting the indie film kept me busy. The role was small but honest, a man learning to live after loss. The director, an old friend of Sarah's, let me bring real pain to the scenes. Between takes, I texted Liam stupid things. Photos of craft service donuts, complaints about the cold November rain. He sent back snippets of stories he was writing, always ending with thinking of you. Marcus's texts had stopped after the first week. Silence felt like another kind of betrayal. Thanksgiving arrived. I flew back to Texas because canceling would break Mom's heart. The ranch smelled of turkey and cornbread dressing. Riley pulled me aside in the kitchen. Dad's been reading everything online. He's confused, Ethan. He keeps asking if this is some Hollywood phase. I told her the truth. It wasn't a phase. It was me. She hugged me hard. Then be you. We'll figure the rest out. Dad and I had our talk on the back porch after pie. He stared at the dark fields. I raised you to be strong. Never figured strong meant this. His voice cracked. But you're still my son. Just give me time. It wasn't acceptance, but it wasn't rejection either. For a Texas man in his 60s, that was a start. Back in New York, the film wrapped, and Liam asked me to spend Christmas with him. His family lived in a cozy brownstone in Park Slope. Parents who had marched in pride parades for decades. A younger brother who teased him mercilessly. They welcomed me like I had always belonged. We decorated the tree while carols played and snow dusted the windows. Under the lights, Liam kissed me for the first time, soft and sure, and I realized I wasn't falling. I'd already landed. But the past refused to stay buried. Marcus showed up in New York 2 days after New Year's. He waited outside my temporary sublet, collar turned up against the cold. Ethan, I made a mistake. My family pressured me, the studio, everything. I want another chance. He looked smaller than I remembered. I stood on the stoop, keys in hand, heart hammering. Liam was inside, making hot chocolate. Marcus, I loved you. But love doesn't disappear when it gets hard. You chose fear. I'm choosing something else now. He left without another word. I went inside and told Liam everything. He didn't flinch. Your choice, he said simply. I'm here for whatever you pick. That night we talked until dawn about what public meant, about my career, his writing, the life we might build. For the first time, I imagined a future without hiding. Spring brought auditions and decisions. A major studio offered me the lead in a big-budget action franchise, the kind that could make or break a career. The contract included a morality clause that made my stomach twist. Liam read it over my shoulder one morning, sunlight streaming through the Brooklyn windows. You don't have to take it, he said. But if you do, I'll stand beside whatever version of you the world gets to see. I turned it down. The headlines the next week were kinder than I expected. Ethan Hayes walks away from franchise, prioritizes authenticity. My agent was furious. Sarah cheered. Liam and I celebrated with cheap champagne on the roof, city lights glittering below. That night, I told him I was ready to come out properly, not in a tabloid, but on my terms. He smiled against my shoulder. Whenever you're ready. I'm not going anywhere. Summer in New York felt alive. We marched in the Pride Parade together, hand in hand for the first time in public. Strangers cheered. A few fans asked for selfies. The fear I had carried for years loosened its grip with every block we walked. My mother called afterward. I saw the pictures. You looked happy. That's all I've ever wanted. Dad texted a single word. Proud. Short, but it meant everything. Marcus released a statement weeks later admitting he had been in the closet too and apologizing. Part of me wanted to hate him. The bigger part felt only pity. He had chosen the cage I had finally stepped out of. I sent him a single message. I hope you find your freedom too. Closure tasted surprisingly sweet. Liam proposed in the most Liam way possible, on a quiet bench in Central Park where we had first met, notebook in hand. Inside was a single page, a handwritten story titled Chapter 1, Us. At the bottom, he had written, "Will you write the rest with me?" I said yes before the tears finished falling. Planning a wedding when the world is watching is its own kind of chaos. We chose Central Park again, but this time under the open sky with invitations sent to family, friends, and a carefully curated press list. No secrecy. My mother flew in with Riley and Dad. Liam's parents brought enough flowers to fill a float. Sarah agreed to be my best woman. We picked simple vows, no scripts, just truth. Rehearsals were quiet. The night before, Dad pulled me aside near the fountain. I was wrong about a lot of things, he said, voice rough. Seeing you like this, it's taught me more than I taught you. We hugged for the first time since I was a boy. Mom cried happy tears while helping me try on the suit, a soft gray that felt like second skin. The morning of the ceremony dawned bright and clear. I stood at the altar in the same park where my life had quietly restarted, heart steady this time. Guests filled the folding chairs, actors, writers, crew from the indie film, even a few brave studio executives. Cameras rolled, but they felt like witnesses now, not predators. Liam walked down the aisle first, smiling so wide the sun seemed to brighten. When it was my turn, the string quartet played the same melody they had cut off at my first wedding, only this time it swelled into something triumphant. I reached him and took his hands. The officiant's words blurred. All I heard was the steady beat of my own heart saying, finally, finally. Vows came easy because they were already written in every late-night conversation, every shared silence. I spoke first. Liam, you found me when I was broken and handed me back the pieces without asking for anything in return. You taught me that love doesn't hide. Today I promise to stand beside you in every light, spotlights, sunlight, and the quiet kind that only we see. His eyes never left mine. He answered, voice thick. Ethan, you showed me courage isn't loud. It's choosing truth even when the world is loudest. I promise to keep writing our story, page after page, no matter what plot twists come. Rings slid on, simple bands etched with tiny stars, a nod to Texas nights and New York rooftops. The kiss was soft, public, and completely ours. Cheers erupted. Confetti cannons exploded in rainbow colors. My father wiped his eyes openly. Sarah hooped loudest of all. In that moment, every scar from the canceled wedding healed over. Not gone, but transformed into something that had led me here. The reception spilled across the park's great lawn. We danced under strings of lights while a jazz band played. Liam spun me once, laughing when I stepped on his toe. Still better than acting, he teased. I pull him close. This isn't acting. This is the only role I was ever meant for. Later, as fireworks painted the sky, I looked at the faces around us. Family who had grown, friends who had stayed, a partner who had never asked me to be less. The boy who once hid on a Texas porch swing had become a man standing in full view. And the world hadn't ended. It had opened wider. We honeymooned in a small cabin upstate. No paparazzi, just lake water and long mornings in bed. Liam read drafts of his new novel aloud while I cooked terrible pancakes. We talked about the future, maybe adopting, maybe a house with a yard, definitely more stories to tell. The quiet felt earned. Back in the city, life settled into a new rhythm. I took smaller roles that let me be myself. Liam's book sold, and suddenly he was the one fielding interviews. We walked the same streets hand in hand, no more hiding. When fans stopped us now, they said congratulations instead of asking for gossip. One evening we sat on our fire escape, watching the sunset bleed across Brooklyn. Liam rested his head on my shoulder. Remember the day the ring hit the floor? I nodded. Best thing that ever happened to me, I said. He smiled. Mine too. The altar that once broke me had become the starting line for everything real. And somewhere in the distance, the stars over Texas and the lights of New York felt like they were shining for the same man. Finally, completely free. After the final page, this story isn't just about a canceled wedding or a public ceremony. It's about the courage it takes to stop performing and start living. Ethan's journey shows that betrayal can be the doorway to authenticity, that family can grow even after decades of silence, and that real love doesn't demand perfection, it demands presence. If you're carrying secrets that weigh you down, remember, the moment you choose truth, the world doesn't shrink. It expands. Keep writing your own chapter. The best plot twist is always the one where you finally become yourself.